Hello and welcome back to Fallout 76. Today I am at the Rusty Pick, ready to try my luck. I've got a character that I need to delete, but before I do that, it has 2600 legendary script that needs to be burned, and we are going after ranged weapons. First up, we've got a suppressor, short gamma gun with extra bash damage and damage resist while aiming. So suppressors, not an effect that I'm a big fan of. The duration's too short, and I think in most cases you just don't need it. Bash damage, this is not a gun you're looking to bash things with. And damage resist while aiming, that number's just too small to be useful anyway. Next up, we've got a suppressor's missile launcher with extra limb damage and faster movement speed while aiming. Missile launcher, you really do want two-shot. Anything else is just not all that great. And suppressors, usually you're killing stuff in one hit with this anyway, so suppressors isn't really going to be all that useful. Limb damage, again, you're trying to kill stuff, so limb damage isn't, you're not looking to cripple things. And faster movement speed while aiming is just not an effect I've ever found useful. Next up, we've got an anti-armor pipe revolver with last round and +1 perception. I do like anti-armor. It is one of my favorite effects. Last round is a worthless effect for the most part, I think. And +1 perception, yeah, that's not really enough to move the needle. So this is basically a 1-star. Next up, we've got a mutant's short ultrasight laser pistol, replenish AP with each kill, and faster movement speed while aiming. Mutants is a mid-tier effect, so with 5 mutations, you get 25% more damage. Replenish AP with each kill is actually okay on something like this, just because the AP cost on energy guns just tends to be higher than ballistic guns, so getting a little bit back every time you kill something can be a good thing. Faster movement speed while aiming, not something I'm ever looking to have. Next up, we've got an Assassin's Light Machine Gun, replenish AP with each kill, +1 agility. Yeah, we're just getting repeats of the same effects. So Assassins is extra damage against humans, which is not something you really need. Humans in this enemy are not overly tanky. Replenish AP with each kill. If you're using this with dodgy, that could be useful, but you're not going to be using it in VATS for the most part. The AP cost on this is really high. You can see the base is 50. So even if you have reduced AP cost as a legendary effect, it's still going to be 37 or 38. +1 agility, not super useful on a gun like this. Next, we've got a bloodied hunting rifle with weapon speed and 90% reduced weight. Bloodied is a good effect if you are playing low health. That is a lot of extra damage. Weapon speed, I'm assuming that means you fire, if you fire quicker in between shots, but it's the fire rate is 4, so 25% more, 25% faster fire rate is only going to make it 5. I don't think you're going to notice that. So weapon speed on a hunting rifle, I don't think is terribly useful. 90% reduced weight is good though. It means I can save this for when the legendary crafting overhaul comes into play and scrap this to learn the effects. Next, we've got a Zealot's combat shotgun with damage while aiming and faster reload speed. Faster reload speed on a shotgun is something I really like. They tend to reload kind of slowly, so I do like that 3rd star. Zealots, that's enemy specific. Even though there's a lot of Scorched, it's still not all that useful. And damage while aiming, if you're using this outside of VATS, that's a really good effect. Next on the list, we've got a Bloodied Gatling Plasma, replenish AP with each kill, and +1 agility. Bloodied, good effect if you are playing low health, lot of extra damage. Replenish AP with each kill, again, if you're using dodgy, that's okay, but you're probably on power armor, and if you are, you really don't need to be using dodgy, so that's probably not a very useful star ever, and +1 agility, that's not useful either, so this is effectively a 1-star. Next up, we've got an Exterminator's Assault Rifle. Bullets explode, damage resist while aiming. Exterminator's enemy specific, not something we want. Bullets explode, extra damage, plus explosive is just kind of fun, so that's a good one. Damage resist while aiming, yeah, if you're +50, that's just not useful. I just don't want damage resistance while doing things on my weapons. That's what my armor is for. Next up, we've got a 2-shot salvage assaultron head with bash damage and 90% reduced weight. Okay, the best thing about this is the 90% reduced weight. These are kind of heavy for what they are, so having that less weight in my stash is a good thing. Bash damage, not really looking for bashing on something like this. 2-shot is gonna hurt your accuracy, so I really would want explosive, although salvage assaultron heads at the moment cannot have the explosive effect, so I'd want VATS hit chance probably. But it is a salvage assaultron head, and I really don't want those ever, no matter what the effects are. Next, we've got a Junkie's combat shotgun with damage while aiming and 90% reduced weight. I do like that I keep getting 90% reduced weight. It means I can save all this stuff and save it for later when the legendary crafting system overhaul comes into effect, and then I have things to scrap. So Junkies, that's a good effect if you are running addictions. I am not, but the damage can go up to 50%. Damage while aiming, if you're using it outside of VATS and aiming, that's a good effect. If you're using it in VATS, it's not a useful effect at all. So yeah, this will be something I'll just stash away and scrap later. So far, we haven't gotten anything even remotely interesting. Well, hopefully that will change right now. Instigating Gauss Rifle with last round and 90% reduced weight. Well, you had me at instigating, you lost me at last round. I mean, these do only hold 5, for the capacity, so last round, the chance for that effect is going to come around a lot more often. Instigating is actually really good on this kind of weapon. The Gauss Rifle does a lot of damage, so instigating means you're just going to one-shot a lot of things. But last round just doesn't interest me. I mean, even with 5 rounds, that's still only a 25% once every... So 20% of the time, you're going to have a 25% chance to deal 100% damage. So for me, that just isn't worth... it's not worth wasting a star on. But 90% reduced weight, again, means I can stick it in my stash and wait for later. Next up, we've got an Instigating Combat Rifle, replenish AP with each kill, and bonus VATS critical charge. Instigating is a little less interesting on this. The damage is quite a bit lower than you would get with a Gauss Rifle. So, double damage on the first shot. For me, I really only want Instigating if it means I'm going to one-shot things. And with this weapon, you're just not going to one-shot very many things. So I don't like Instigating on this weapon. Replenish AP with each kill, that's fine. Every time you kill something, you get a little bit back, which is okay. And extra VATS critical charge just means you'll get critical hits more often. But yeah, Instigating, just not interesting on a gun like this. Next up, we've got a Nocturnal Snubnose 44 pistol with last round and weapon breaks slower. Nocturnal damage bonus damage half the time, which I'm not really a fan of. Last round, not really a fan of that ever. Weapon break slower, it's a fine effect, except for these don't break terribly quickly. So overall, this is just garbage. Next, we've got an Exterminator's Gamma Gun with extra critical damage and weapon breaks slower. Exterminator's is enemy specific, which I don't want. Extra critical damage is one of my favorite second stars, so that is really good. Weapon breaks slower. Haven't used a Gamma Gun enough to know if that's a good effect or not. I don't know if these are one of those guns that breaks pretty quickly or not. But overall, Exterminators just means I'm not going to use this. Next up, we've got a Mutant's short 10mm submachine gun with extra bash damage and damage resist while reloading. So a number that high, 250 damage resist while reloading. If you're playing as a Berserker, that could actually be useful. For anything else, it is not. Bash damage, these don't really have that high of a base damage, so bashing with them I don't think is going to be terribly effective. Mutants, mid-tier effect, your damage can be up to 25% depending on how many mutations you have, but overall this is a throwaway. We are down to the final 10. And that will be kicked off with this. Aristocrat short assault rifle with bash damage and damage resist while reloading. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of not a lot of even 2-star combinations. So Aristocrats, one of my favorite effects. You can get up to 50% more damage depending on how many caps you have. So that's a good effect. Bash damage, something like this, bashing isn't going to be terribly effective. And again, that big damage resist while reloading, unless you're not wearing armor, that's not really useful. So overall, this is just something I'm going to throw away. Next up, we've got a Vampire's Black Powder Pistol with extra critical damage and +1 agility. I do like the Vampire's effect, except on something like this, where the fire rate is so slow. 2%, basically you're going to heal 2% about every 10 seconds or so. That's not a whole lot. So Vampires on something like this is not what I want. Extra critical damage, that's a really good effect. These already do, they hit really hard. So just adding a 50% more critical damage means they're going to hit even harder. +1 agility, not terribly useful. This is not something, a combination of effects that I really want on this gun. Next, we've got a Hunter's Broadsider with extra VATS hit chance and 90% reduced weight. Hunters, enemy specific, not interested in that. Really on a Broadsider, you want 2-shot to get the best out of it. VATS hit chance is actually really good on something like this. You want to make sure every shot counts, so that's good. 90% reduced weight is actually really good. Broadsiders are pretty heavy, but overall, this is just a throwaway. Next up, we've got an Aristocrat's Flamer with extra critical damage and bonus VATS critical charge. That is a good combination of effects, but I think it is on the wrong weapon. Aristocrat's really good, an extra 50% damage if you have 29,000 caps or more. Extra critical damage, that's really good. This is not really a VATS weapon for the most part. You can see the AP cost is 30, which is really on the high side. So I'm not using this in VATS. I'm just going to be hip firing with it for the most part. So that second, 3rd star, even though they're really good, I just don't think they're all that useful on this particular gun. Plus, there is the Holy Fire, which is just really good, right out of the box. And so you really don't need any other flamers. Next up, we've got a Mutant's Cryolator with extra bash damage, +1 agility. These have a fairly low base damage. You're just not looking to bash with these. +1 agility, not terribly useful either. Mutants is a mid-tier effect, up to 25% more damage. But overall, just again, we've got 3 effects that just aren't all that interesting. Next up, we've got a Nocturnal short combat rifle with extra critical damage and +1 agility. I do like extra critical damage. +1 agility, not terribly useful, you know, just +1 special. It's just not something I want on ranged weapons typically. And Nocturnal is extra damage at night, which is not something I want ever. Next up, we've got an Instigating combat rifle with replenish AP with each kill and damage resist while aiming. We already got one of these earlier that was Instigating. I don't remember what the other stars were, but yeah, Instigating is this just isn't having a high enough damage for Instigating to be good. Replenish AP with each kill is fine. Damage resist while aiming is not very useful at all, so this is a throwaway. We are down to the final 3. We've got a Stalker's Salvage Assaultron head with damage while aiming and +1 agility. Stalker's is a VATS effect and not a very good one. Damage while aiming is a not a VATS effect, so those stars don't even go together. +1 agility, not all that useful, and this is an Assaultron head, so this is garbage. Next, we've got a Zealot's Cryolator with weapon speed and damage resist while aiming. 3rd star is not all that useful. Weapon speed is good on something like this. If you, let's see, it is automatic already, so yeah, having it fire faster, that's a good effect, but Zealots is enemy specific, and we just don't want that. Well, this has been just a whole bunch of trash, which is good. I mean, I was looking for Scrip for another character, so this will work. Was hoping for something interesting, but so far not so much. We have one left to go, so let's see how we end things. Suppressors, Gamma Gun with extra critical damage, weapon breaks slower. Critical damage I like, suppressors I don't. Weapon breaks slower is kind of a question mark for me on this weapon, but yeah, overall, we kind of ended how we started with garbage. And there you go, that's how you burn 2600 Scrip and end up with really nothing to show for it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit one of the buttons, and I hope you'll join me in the next one. Thank you very much.